Hello, everyone. Welcome to ELI, the only podcast in India where we bring a new founder on every episode to talk about their journey and their story of building a company. And today we have with us Deepak Narayan, who is the founder of Practus, which is a business consulting firm. Hi, Deepak. Welcome to ELI.
Hello, Priya. How are you doing?
And
Thanks
this
for
is
having
good.
me over.
Our pleasure. To start with, Deepak, please tell us a bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, your past life prior to entrepreneurship, and how did you arrive at entrepreneurship?
Right. So it's interesting that you say past life because I think that's the first way to describe myself. I'm fairly spiritual, believe in karma. And when you say past life, I have actually dabbled a little bit to see why certain things happen in your life in a certain way, right? Whether it is looking at your horoscope, which is through astrology. Incidentally, I'm actually learning astrology.
Wow.
Uh, or looking at what they call as Nadi Shastra, which is somebody has written what the destiny of billions and billions of human beings to be born on this earth, right on that leaf.
Right.
I've actually kind of gone and looked at some of these sciences. They are not myths. They are not fantasy.
Wow.
And when you say past life, I think I can't reveal my past life. Right, it's going to open up a lot of Pandora's box, but I know exactly what you mean by past life, right? So I think, like any other Indian middle class boy, Priya, my journey was about my father. Um, we actually come from a middle class family. Father used to work for a bank, a private sector bank.
Wow.
Every 2 years, he used to get transferred to another city, and this included both a city as well as a town, right? And in one or two occasions, I think we have ended up going to even towns which can be categorized as small towns.
Mm.
Uh, right. So when I did my schooling was from six different states. Uh,
Okay.
right. And my father, beyond a point, I think when we grew up, my father couldn't take us anymore because, let's say, I was in class nine and he had to anchor us somewhere.
Mm.
So he kept going on transfers. And I think I'm not exaggerating, but maybe in his career spanning 35, 38 years, he would have done about 18, 19 transfers.
Wow.
He would have had, right? And we had about five, six, or we were a part of five or six of these because we couldn't have too much of disruption. So he ended up going to a place, and if he thought he's going to be there in that place for a slightly more longer time, he would get us in, and then we would stay in that place for 2 or 3 years, and then move on to the next place, right? So it was
Mm.
pretty much of a nomadic lifestyle. And today, when I hear a lot of my friends, kids talk about stability and the fact that they all have to go to one school, I only keep asking myself this question in my head, that how did I even do it, right? Because at that point in time, I just used to hate it because you would have just made a set of friends, and it would be time for us to go to the next town or to the next city,
Right.
right? And those were not social media days. So you pretty much lost touch with your friends. Even phones were a luxury. I mean, you used to have those landline phones, right? And it was very difficult to stay in touch. But I guess it also uh, teaches you things or builds up your character in a different way. So
Mm.
you end up becoming or making friends with people far, far quicker as compared to a lot of people out there, right? You tend to put people at ease when you meet them because you're always looking for friends, right? You're always looking to build a conversation. So these are things that kind of helped me as I was growing up. And by the time I was in class nine, I told you I came to Bangalore, studied in Bangalore till I finished my 10th, went on to do my college.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and yeah, I did my chartered accountancy. I'm a chartered accountant did my articleship with a large firm. There's this training that chartered accountants have to go through while they also study and clear their exams. And yeah, I worked there for some time and then moved to Mumbai. Again, worked for a large consulting firm in Mumbai before starting off with WealthTree. We used to call this company WealthTree because they
Mm-hmm.
were the equivalent of Kalpavruksha in Sanskrit, right? So Kalpavruksha is a tree which grants your wishes when you come and stand under that tree. And there was no equivalent name for a Kalpavruksha in English. So we said WealthTree. So people who came to us made a lot of wealth. Their wishes were granted. That was the whole idea behind that. And then we pivoted the model. I'll come to that later. We pivoted the model. We called our brand MyCFO. From MyCFO, we are now Practus.
Interesting. Before we start talking about practice, I just want to dig a little deeper into your early life. Uh, so initially in your childhood, you move around the country a lot. Would you say that kind of helped you to become a founder? Because founder's life is also pretty similar. You sort of juggle between problems. You move from one problem to another. You also tend to meet a lot of new people, and then you tend to move on to other set of people because you need to keep inventing, keep setting up processes. You need to hire and fire and lot of these things. So, can you draw some analogies between these?
Yeah. So that's an interesting point, right, Priya? And I've been thinking about this point. So if you look at this, in my case, maybe that is what pushed me to kind of start a company or become an entrepreneur. But in a lot of cases, if you see people who work in the defense forces, kids of parents who are in the defense forces or in central government jobs,
Hmm.
they also end up moving quite a bit, but not everyone becomes an entrepreneur. A lot of them end up becoming very resourceful. Some of them become, say, do something to do with serving the country. They become IAS, IFS officers, so on and so forth. So there is no real pattern when I was actually thinking about this thing as to what really helped me or shaped me to become an entrepreneur. But I think there were certain incidents in my life which I can certainly attribute to what I wanted to do later on, right? So, see, I was a very good student in school. Okay, when I say good student, not because I used to sit down and study. It was because I think, and I can say this, I don't know whether I can say this to your audience, but in India, I think the system, given this, that the system is rote learning,
Hmm.
you can actually study in a manner that can give you if you know how to study you don't have to study very hard, but if you know what to study, then you can still be top of the charts, right? And I pretty much did that for throughout my school and my college, and I did that even in my CA, right, pretty much. So I think it gave you in my case, I think I looked at trade-offs. Okay, and as an entrepreneur, the trade-off is very important. When you're taking a decision, there are always multiple possibilities and multiple outcomes for a decision and the implications, right? So in this case, the implication for me was if I leave out a chapter while studying, and what if a question from that chapter actually came in my examination? So you're actually taking a trade-off,
Hmm.
right? But what is that trade-off against? The trade-off is against, say, playing 2 hours of cricket every day, right? Or spending time with friends every day, right? So I thought at that point in time in my life that it was worth it for me to go and play or spend time outside rather than sitting at home and studying all the time, right? So I thought that trade-off as a quality or as a trait that came to me from a very, very young age. And that is because I always did these trade-offs when I was studying. So that is point number one. The
Hmm.
second trait that I think I learned is how do you quickly break the ice when it comes to dealing with people? Because again, as an entrepreneur, you not only have got to be a good storyteller, you got to tell your story, but you also have to tell your story in the fastest possible way because attention spans of people are very, very low, right. So when you're sitting down with a prospective client, the client exactly needs to know what you're doing in the least possible time. without losing interest or concentration. Okay, and that again came to me because I could I was perpetually in this race to make friends when I was moving from one city to another, or a town to another, because I had to break into an ecosystem. Friends were already made, right? I was always the outsider. I had to go
Right.
into this zone, make friends, and become a part of them, right? So that was the second thing that kind of helped me to become an entrepreneur. The third is to be able to do something which was not run of the mill. So even when we started the consulting firm, what we said was to not run this as any other consulting firm would do, right? So you have big, large global consulting firms. You had those back then. You have it even now. We said that there are some things that these global consulting firms do extremely well. There are some things that they don't do well. So
Hmm.
let's focus on what our strengths are, right? Differentiate and do the differentiation in a manner that it kind of resonates well with people who want to come and buy our services, right? So that rebel attitude in you to say that वो क्या बोलेगा मैं क्या सुनूंगा, मुझे I have to do it in my way, but also not be arrogant. This is not to be arrogant. Being rebellious is not being arrogant, right? So that I think was a third trait, and that also coincided with the fact that when my parents, especially, used to tell me to study, even though I knew that was right for me, but the moment my parents say go and study, I would not study. I would study only when I felt only when I felt that I had to study, right? So that rebellious character was always in me, and that helps you when you become an entrepreneur, right? And last point for me is, see, just the love for being out there playing sports, experiencing, because I think sports teaches you. I don't know whether you've played sport. I'm sure you've played it in a fun way, but I also played it a little bit more seriously. But sport actually teaches you amazing things. It teaches you the spirit of, say, never giving up,
Hmm.
bouncing back when you're down. You may get hurt, right? But you cannot be sitting and nursing your wounds when you get hurt. You have to get up and play. The ability to work as a team, right? The ability to keep your egos aside when it is needed, because when you have to win, then you win collectively. You don't win. You can't win even if you're a very good individual player, right? So
Right.
some of these things could be transported by me when I started building out this company, and I still do it as I keep growing.
Got it. Uh, I could resonate to you when you said the thing about trade-off. I think that's the most fundamental trait of every entrepreneur. People who are very good at doing these trade-offs, they sort of, tend to become entrepreneurs eventually, because I see a lot of brilliant, bright mind people, but only some of them become entrepreneurs. Others do not, because they are not able to trade off. They cannot let go of something there that is valuable to them to achieve something else. And that, I think, that's the art of entrepreneurship. Can you expand on that? Like, do you also believe what I said is true?
Absolutely right. I think trade-off is a very important quality, because I think, and into especially in today's day and age, Priya, where everyone thinks that there is a black and a white, right? So if you look whether you look at all the dialogues that happen on social media, you happen all the political conversations, it is always about black and white, right and wrong. Okay, but life is never so straight. All of us know that, right? There are nuances in every decision that you take, in every conversation that you have, right? So it is important for you to bring those nuance to recognize firstly that there are nuances, right? And that's where the trade-offs really emerge. And after having realized that there are these nuances, and which means that there are going to be trade-offs, it is important then to take those decisions in the context of those trade-offs, right? And what are those trade-offs going to do? How is it going to impact your decision making? Let me give you an example, if you permit me, right? So an example could be, let's say when you're going through a downturn. Okay, so for example, during COVID, I think most businesses, at least in the initial period, did not know what to do, right? In fact, I would say 100% of the businesses did not know. There was so much uncertainty around. A lot of businesses went ahead and sacked people.
Right.
right? Some of them cut salaries of people, right? So there were all sorts of things that was done at that point in time. So we were faced with a situation like that. This is a classic trade-off
Mm,
situation. So in that situation, I think the right thing that the brain will tell you to do is you have to kind of protect your costs. Okay, you have to let go of some people. Okay, that's the only way you can survive. But I
right.
think what we ended up doing at that point in time was we did not lay off anyone. We did not sack anyone, right?
Mm,
But I think having that conversation with our teams to figure out as a group what is it that we need to do uh, in order to go through that phase helped us because the teams came back and gave us solutions on what we could do. Okay, for example, I think we ended up deferring their variables. We didn't touch anybody's fixed compensation. We
mm,
deferred their variables, and eventually we ended up paying variables once the situation changed, right, or became better. So that for me was a trade-off decision. I could have taken a decision based on what 99% of the companies at that point in time were doing. But we said that we actually contemplated, we said the right thing for us was to go and speak to people. And we came up with a decision which was actually jointly owned by several people in the company. And then we went out and implemented. And the good thing about that was it eventually paid out because people stuck around longer, right? The attrition rates were not that high when things opened up. Whereas for a lot of other companies, there was pent up feelings. If you remember, a lot of people when the markets opened up just changed jobs for whatever reason. So in
mm.
our case, that didn't impact us, and that was one of the greatest examples of trade-off as far as I'm concerned that we experience, which is something clearly that I wanted to share and how trade-offs really work.
Right. Would you say, like you mentioned, sometimes your brain will say something, but your gut feeling would say otherwise. So sometimes it's better to go with the gut feelings instead of following the logic, which is a typical business rule that follow the logic, do what the logic says. What would you comment on that? As
Yeah,
an entrepreneur, what is more?
I
Uh,
think very good question. Yeah. Again, I think it's a trade. Again, for me, it's a trade. It comes in the bracket of trade-off, Priya, and I'll explain how this is. See, I think logic is important, okay, but at the end of the day, there has to be a hypothesis on why you're doing and how you're going to approach. Let's go back. In a lot of cases, I think you need data first.
hmm,
Okay, so if you're confronted with a situation, with any situation, let's say I want to go to a new geography, right,
right.
or expand my services in a new geography, your gut may say that I want to go there because an entrepreneur's natural instinct is always to grow.
Hmm,
Okay, your gut can also operate in the reverse way. That's what I'm trying to tell.
right.
So your gut will say that let's go and do it because entrepreneurs want to do it.
Hmm,
So in this case, what you need to do is to go back and back it with some kind of logic or some kind of data. Now, if the data actually tells me that it is not the right idea for me to go and expand in that market, why? Because of several reasons. A, maybe the size of this market is not big enough. The type of services that we are trying to sell in that market is not the right one. Maybe we haven't penetrated enough in our existing set of geographies. So it's a good time for you to penetrate into in your existing geographies, wait it out, and then go. Right now, this cannot be solved only through a gut problem. You will have to solve this through bringing up data. Also, I think by talking to other people who have walked this journey, sometimes just going out and having a conversation with five other people who have done this will help you to improve your gut instincts better as you start taking more and more complex decisions going forward. Right. So in this case, the gut could be a wrong. The decision could be a wrong decision, but in some other case your gut could be the right the choice that the gut makes is the right choice, but again you need to back it up with some kind of a data, right? So data is used or logic is used only to back your gut instincts, right? But logic is not used to throw away gut instincts. So you have to kind of use both but you
Hmm.
need to have a certain hypothesis while you take a decision.
Understood. You also spoke about spirituality, about astrology. I personally believe there was a certain point of time when I was introduced to spirituality. I also understood that entrepreneurship has a deep connection with spirituality. Only people who have a little bit of spiritual evolution, they become entrepreneurs, because uh, there are certain chakras in your body that starts from the very bottom, which is very basic chakra. As your energy flows through that to next level and next level, at a certain point you start showing entrepreneurial qualities. It's a more evolved version of human being. Would you comment on that? Like, do you believe entrepreneurs are more spiritual, more enlightened categories of people?
Yeah. So on a lighter note, Priya, even if they don't have it when they start, they end up getting it by the time the company grows or degrows, right? So everyone goes through a phase. I don't think any entrepreneur has had just the ups. People have had the ups, the lows, they move sideways, whatever, right?
Hmm.
So while starting out, everyone believes that they can go and conquer the world, right? And when the first set of failures starts to come in, that's when lessons that's when you start learning lessons, right? And that makes you, if I may say so, naturally spiritual, humble, a student. Okay, and then I think you start going on a different trajectory as you take your company to the next level, to the next level. Even if companies don't succeed, which is also the reality with entrepreneurship.
Right.
For all for the 5% success that you see, 95% of them don't are not even heard of, right? They just fall by the wayside. And
Hmm.
even those people, I think by the time they are no longer an entrepreneur, they also become far more evolved. Right? So certainly, I don't know when you start off you're evolved, but certainly I think the journey makes you definitely more evolved as compared to if you had not been an entrepreneur. That's personally my experience. I mean, it's not my belief. Actually, it's my experience, right? I look at myself and I said, what was I before I started and what am I today? And is there scope for you to become a better soul, a better human being? Still, absolutely yes. Okay, and I think every day, I think this journey teaches you more than what you can contribute or what you can give back to this journey.
Got it. Let's speak about the practice journey. Like, I think it was started in 2007 as a wealth tree, and then it got converted into practice. Even the offerings also changed. Correct me if I'm wrong. So can you take us through the evolution? Like, what was the genesis with which you started? How does a chartered accountant who is working for a auditing company come up and start something? What is that journey like? How were the early days? How did your family react to it? Because because you come from a service family, your father was a serviceman. Entrepreneurship is a different game altogether. It requires a different mindset. Even family needs to be oriented. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, tell us about that.
So I was the first entrepreneur in the family, Priya. Right. So we come also from a community which where I think we are always taught you have to study hard. You have to join a good job, move up the career ranks, right? Uh, Retire eventually. And I think that was the DNA or the mindset that was ingrained, right? My father worked for one bank for 38 years till he retired. So I have not seen anyone in my close circle, and you take my extended family. There is nobody in my close circle who I saw, was running a business, was an entrepreneur. So it was totally, and it was not an India where you could see like today, where you could see a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of funding, right? The focus around entrepreneurship, the stories, the lessons, and so many of these things. So I think I grew up in a different era, right? Um, so what got me into this is the fact that I think when I was again, this is a growing up story. So when I was growing up, somewhere at the back of my mind, right, it always was a case that I don't know whether I used to say this more out of frustration when I was asked to study, or whether this was a genuine thing. Is that I always used to say that when I grow up, I again don't want to go and work in a place where somebody is telling me what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I want to be the one taking my decisions on my own. I want to be my own boss. Right. I clearly, I remember I used to say this a lot to when I was growing up. And that I think at a subconscious level remained stored. It remained stored. I worked for two global consulting firms. And in the second one, when it was 2007, I was due to get a promotion. And My co-founder at Practus now, who is also my first cousin. He's elder to me, and he was in a very good position. He was the CFO of a large Fortune 100 American company, and he had actually helped not just this company but also the previous company where he was working. He had helped them to set up in India. Right, and this was again an era where companies found it very hard to establish in India because of the cultural nuances, the ease of doing business. Everything was was different. So we were having a conversation, and he told me, I'm planning to kind of quit my job. I have experience of having done this for two American companies. I got them here, and I can genuinely see that there is a case for a number of these multinationals who want to come here and set up base in India. It's a great business opportunity. And We were having this conversation, and I think he popped the question, right? He asked, I mean, what's your take? I mean, if I do something like this, would you come and join? See, I was about 25 years old. I had no idea about what the world out there really is all about. All the companies that I had consulted were all multinationals. Right. So I think their governance, the way they operated, everything was at a reasonable standard, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I thought that the world outside would all be hunky dory, rosy. So without even batting an eyelid, and it was my brother. I mean, I knew him from the time I was born. So I knew that whatever he was telling me was in my personal interest. So I didn't even give it a thought. I said, yes, let's do it. And the next question was, when should I resign from my job? So when I went back and communicated this to my boss was shocked. He said, "Look, in a month's time, it's not formal, but in a month's time, you're going to get promoted. You're doing a great mistake, right? What are you trying to do with this company? I don't even understand what you guys are doing. But if this is and he tried to persuade me, but if this is your decision, then I'll let you go. But remember, you will come back to the firm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in a few months time, you will come back to the firm because this is not a business idea which will survive. Those were his words,
Okay.
right? And I've still not gone back to that firm again. So he said this, and I jumped at it. So my parents, the only reaction, my father was never really interfering. Even my mother, I mean, they let me do what I wanted to do. But coming from the kind of background we came from, because we had to kind of have a good academic background, good corporate job. That's really the background, right? So my mom said that if you do something like this, remember one thing: you're not going to get a girl, because the expectations of all the families who are going to give you a girl is that you are in a stable job, right? The moment you're going away from a stable job, it's going to be hard for you. And she said it in joke, in jest, right? And I also didn't think so much about it, so I said, yeah, it's okay. Let's see where it goes. If, let's say, worst case it doesn't work, I can always come back because I was a chartered accountant by then. Right, so I could anyway get back to a job and do what I had to do. And I'm glad that I didn't have to turn back, Priya. I think it's been 17 glorious years, 18 years actually, to be more precise. 18 years I didn't have to turn back, and probably this is the best thing that happened to me. I mean, have there been difficulties? Have I thought at some point in time, yeah, Should I be giving up, going back to a job? Have I looked at my friends who I thought have easier lives than what I have? Yeah, I've done all of that. I mean, in the sense I've thought of those. But today, I think uh, I feel that the decision that I took was possibly the best decision that I've taken, because what I lived out as a child, whatever I used to tell, that I wanted to be my own boss, the independence. But more importantly, I've realized now that the impact that you can create as an entrepreneur is amazing. Right? Whether the impact is for your people, whether it is for the community,
Mm,
we support a number of community initiatives, CSR activities, the impact that you can create for your clients. So that impact is uncomparable. You cannot compare that with being in a job and trying to create the same level of impact, and the level of satisfaction is again unparalleled. Right? So you go back every night, you go back to bed thinking that you've done your absolute best
mm,
that you could have done. Right? So yeah, so no regrets. So far, no regrets. I think life has been wonderful. Lots of lessons along the way. It's made me more grounded. It's made me more sensitive. I would say, and certainly it has helped me to think and solve problems in ways that I wouldn't have possibly been able to do had I not been an entrepreneur.
mm. What were the initial difficulties that you faced during your, let's say, first 3 years or so? Because the way I understand it, you come from a accounting background. You studied chartered accountancy. You worked for major auditing firms like Deloitte and Ernst and Young. Uh, you come with a very niche or narrow skill set, but as an entrepreneur, you have to wear multiple hats. To start with, you have to acquire customers, you have to do sales, uh, and you have to do people management and so on. Like, multiple skills are required to be a successful entrepreneur. How did you gather those skills? Or I'm sure you would have faced some difficulties around that.
Yeah. So I think firstly, see, I was telling you about how that entire childhood where I had to move from one city or town to another helped me build certain skill sets. For example, this whole thing about how do you acclimatize faster with people? How do you break into a group? See, in terms of say, you're right about the fact that a chartered accountancy teaches you certain skills, but it doesn't teach you, for instance, sales skills, right, or
Mm,
public speaking skills. Now, because I had the advantage of having moved to different places, made different friends, and also I think the ability to break into an established group.
mhm.
Okay, so all those came in handy when I when we started doing WealthTree at that point in time, right? Because I think those skills were utilized to the maximum. The other thing that helped is when you go through phases which are low in your life, um, you you stay put. Okay, I think it CA teaches you resilience. It's not an easy course,
Mm,
right? See, unlike an engineering, I'm not saying engineering is easy. Okay, again, let your audience not think that I'm putting something down. But if you look at, say, an engineering, it may be hard for you to get into an IIT there, but it's not very difficult for you to pass the exam. Once you get into an IIT, you can get out. A
mm,
CA is completely the opposite. I think a CA is easy for you to get in. You can enroll for the program, but the pass percentages are very, very low.
right.
And it used to be extremely low. When I passed out, it used to be very low. Now I think the percentages have gone up.
Mhm,
So I think it teaches you resilience. How do you stay? Again, till that time, if you have not failed in your life,
mm,
and a lot of people go through do not pass CA in the first attempt. So when you do not pass CA in the first attempt, and that's your first failure in your life, you have
right.
never failed in academics, right? Um, and when that happens, I think it kind of teaches you that no matter what happens, you just stay the course.
Mm,
Okay, and you wait for your next attempt. You prepare better. You wait for your next attempt, and you clear it, right? So these are traits that you kind of bring into entrepreneurship, and that's, I think, more important. Most of the entrepreneurs do not, as I said, 95% of the companies fail for variety of reasons, but one of the reasons is because they give up too soon.
Hmm.
Okay, and this is a big debate. You don't know when to give up or how long can you carry on, right? So for an entrepreneur who gave up, he'll say, okay, I gave up at at the right time, because had I continued, I would have made more losses,
Hmm.
right? But equally, there are n number of stories where people have gone to the rock bottom, and they've just stayed enough amount of time, and then the fortunes have kind of gone up, right? So resilience is as a trait you learn when you do a program like a CA, right? And also you learn that when you play sports,
Hmm.
because in sports you end up failing most times, right?
Correct.
You take the case of cricket, okay? You look at all our celebrated Indian cricket batsmen. I think they fail more number of times, right?
Correct.
They get to a 50 or a 100. The number of times they get to a 50 or a 100 is smaller, way smaller, as compared to the number of times they get out before 50,
Hmm.
right? So there are more failures in sport as compared to successes, right?
Correct.
So sport as well as the CA course actually taught me resilience, the ability to stay put, and to do what it takes in order to survive, right? I
Hmm.
think those are traits that I took when I went into the when we started the company. So you're right about the fact that accounting teaches you a certain skill, but the mindset came from say how you went about doing a CA course, how the entire moving from one city to another helped me break into groups, make friends, and also from sport to not give up.
Why was this pivot done from WealthTree to Practus? What was that story?
So the pivot from there was another pivot in between. From WealthTree, we did a pivot to MyCFO. From MyCFO, we went to Practus. Now
Hmm.
WealthTree, I think in 2008 there was a global recession. Okay, and the number of companies which wanted to come to India came down drastically,
Hmm.
because most companies did not want to expand, right? Because there was a recession. Everyone said, let me protect my core. Let me stay back and do what I'm doing rather than go out and expand.
Hmm.
So it was actually a survival thing for us.
Hmm.
So we had to pivot in order for us to survive, right? And therein we went into what is called as MyCFO. Now, MyCFO was for family-owned businesses who did not have a CFO's office.
Hmm.
Uh, these were companies which are growing rapidly. Second and third generation was coming into the business. And they were moving away from legacy businesses to more professionally run business, right? So they wanted private equity, they wanted to tie up with with an overseas company, they wanted to do a JV, they wanted to do technical collaborations, they wanted to list, right? So things were changing at that point in time, and we felt that there was a need for them, and it was also our calling card. Both of us came from finance backgrounds, and we said, let's align what we did in our past lives to what the market really demands at this point in time. And therefore we pivoted from a wealth tree to a MyCFO, and we ran it until 2020, right? Till we changed the brand to Practus. And the
Hmm.
reason why we again changed the brand to Practus is because by that time we had started working with organizations at a 360 degree, right?
Hmm.
We were not just doing CFO's office of finance. We were also helping them with strategy, with growth. We were helping them with operations, which is manufacturing, supply chain. We were doing a lot of work around digital, right? Automation, digital. We were helping them with change management, working with their people, performance management, and things like that. So we were doing like a full 360, and therefore we again had to make that pivot. We changed the brand name from MyCFO to Practus.
Understood. All right. So almost at the end of the discussion, finally, I just have one question left for you. I think currently Practice is doing everything, giving all sort of consulting services to businesses, but we are also seeing a rapid shift in the consulting industry because of AI. So AI has become a it's a consultant itself, right? You can also hire a AI, ask him, you become a, let's say you become a practice consultant and give me suggestions what to do. How do you foresee that wave, and how do you tackle that?
See, AI, I think, is probably one of the best things to have happened, right, anywhere, and it is one of the best things to have happened even in consulting, right. And I'll tell you why I'm saying this. See, I think when the industrial revolution came, okay, 120 years back, everyone felt that the need for humans will go away because machines will take over manufacturing.
Mm,
Okay, I think that industrial revolution came, it made people more productive, more efficient, right? So what used to take 12 hours, people started doing it in, say, 6 hours because machines did some of the basic work that humans were doing. Similarly, if you look at the any of those inventions, right? So let's say whether it is telephone or the diesel engine, right? So everyone felt that the people to people connect would be lost because telephones have come,
mm,
or with right. So at every stage, I think human beings have kind of risen above the technological advancement that has come, and they have adopted or accepted it, right, and they have lived along with it. You
mm,
take the case even of computers, okay, and maybe you should ask this to your father when computers came, and I remember this very clearly with my own father. There was so much of nervousness around, okay, where people who had attained a certain age, everyone said, these people are going to be out of their jobs because computers are going to come and eliminate their jobs. But what happened to the contrary? Almost everyone learned computers, and
mm,
computers ended up automating or easing a lot of the work that they were doing manually. Let's take the case of banks, right? So people used to write ledgers, right?
mm,
That entire thing got computerized, and then people started focusing on other core activities, core banking activities, rather than doing accounting.
mm,
Similarly, when internet came, the same thing, the same argument happened, right? Because now information was at its fingertip. Everyone could get information on Google or wherever,
mm,
right? So I think with AI, I suspect I think I can see that is exactly what's happening with AI. So today, I think for a firm like us, we use AI to help reskill our people.
mhm,
So if people were actually doing a lot of the research work, okay, I think AI can help you to do that research work and get you to this level,
mm,
right? Which also gives makes people more skillful. They can actually use that information to apply their mind towards more critical problem solving,
right.
right? And that, I think, Priya, is a skill that AI possibly does not have at this point in time, or it may take time for you to develop that, right?
Mm,
So critical thinking, for example, how do you bring AI to do critical thinking? Similarly, contextual conversation. This is a contextual conversation. You type this out on Gen AI, you will probably get a certain type of an interview from Gen AI. But
right.
how do you replicate the context? How do you replicate the emotions? How do you replicate some of the other aspects that we have been able to cover in this interview? AI today is not ready to do that, right? Um, Third, I think the days of making easy money in consulting will be out. Okay, because
Mm,
earlier I think there are consulting firms which could make money saying that they were doing strategy.
right.
Today, I think strategy is almost democratized. There is too much information available. Not
Mm,
just Gen AI. In general, if you have to read out about an industry, about whatever, you have so much information.
yeah.
So consulting firms have to be extremely sharp now in terms of what they go out and tell companies or how they advise companies, right? So they may be using that information that they have, but the way they will have to go out and make this work for their companies or for their clients is what will determine a successful company versus those who are not successful. And last point is that there is still a lot of execution gaps.
Mm,
Okay, so AI can do a lot of work, but let's say if you are a CEO of a company and you have figured out the strategy,
mm,
okay, but you actually have the people to be able to implement the strategy.
mm,
Okay, do you have the skills? Do you
Mm.
have the numbers to be able to execute
Right.
today? Right? And execution is a tough job, because execution is not just knowledge, it is about discipline. It's about consistency. You need to keep doing something, you need to follow something over a period of time, and
Mm.
you need to improvise, right? Because it's never a straight line. It's not like a computer program that it'll work exactly the way you scripted it. So execution is a big area. So consulting firms which are on the execution bandwagon like us, because we promise clients an ROI. We tell them that we will get it done for you.
Mm.
I think we will survive, right? Companies like this will survive. And secondly, I think AI will only improve the quality and the standards of people who are working in consulting if it is used right.
Got it. All right. On this note, we will close the session. Thanks for joining, Deepak. Was a very nice discussion. Lot of insights covered, and was a pleasure to speak with you. Thanks.
Same here, Priya. Thank you so much. I know you were not well, and you were not sure about doing this even some time back. But I hope you're feeling better, and I enjoyed the conversation as much. You enjoyed asking me questions, right? So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Deepak. Have a good day.
Thanks.